Well, good morning again. Man, we are so glad you're here. We are in the second week of our series, Unbelievable. And if you're joining us online, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Hey, so the reason we got this series, Unbelievable, hey, what is it about? Well, it's all about God. That's what this series is about. And last week, Darren kicked things off by, because we came out of Easter and said, hey, what should we talk about? We said, well, we need to talk about God for sure, man. And like, is it believable, unbelievable? Even his disciples, as Darren shared with us last week, that after Easter, after the resurrection, the disciples were still walking around in disbelief. They were walking around in unbelief. They thought it was completely over. And it wasn't until Jesus appeared to them multiple times that they could find, after his crucifixion and resurrection, that they could finally get their minds and hearts around the fact, okay, we misunderstood who Jesus is. Jesus, you are the Son of God, and you did do the things that you're supposed to do. And the reason we started there with the disciples is if you've got 12 guys who are walking and doing life and seeing Jesus do miracles, having a front row seat to all of their teaching, and they have questions, then it would be absolutely and completely reasonable for everybody in this room at some point, if not at multiple points in their lives, to have doubts about what you believe and to have questions about what you believe. But rather than just kind of pass them off or not investigate or not talk about them, we thought, hey, let's talk about this. Because after all, one of the greatest conversations and one of the biggest debates that is going around is like, is God even believable? And at the forefront of that argument is like, does science argue for or against God? I don't like that question. I don't think science is biased, but if science is biased, I would say I believe that science points towards the existence of God. I would say that because here's the deal. Science doesn't argue. People do. And people debate and they argue and they kick things and ideas back and forth based on our own biases. And I want to be upfront with you. I have a bias when it comes to this. I believe in the God of the Bible. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the creation events. And so I want to be upfront and I want to say that I have that bias. But when I say that I'm a person of faith, there are those in culture who would discount me immediately saying, oh, you're one of those. You're one of those with faith. Like somehow possessing faith makes me less than, because they say, you rely on faith and we rely on intelligence. Here's what I would say. Faith is not the absence of intelligence. Faith is the proof of intelligence. Check this out. This is the definition of intelligence. Look at this. Intelligence, by definition, means possessing a high degree of mental capacity. Okay, so being a person of high mental capacity, having a mental capacity, I possess a faith. Now listen to what faith is. Faith is possessing confidence. And not like some pie-in-the-sky confidence, but having confidence that is rooted in evidence. Your intelligence can say, I have confidence, I have faith based on evidence. So regardless of where you're at in a relationship with God, regardless of where your belief is with God, we all had a faith this morning that the sun would come up. Why did that faith exist? We didn't doubt, we didn't wonder, we weren't curious if the sun was going to come up. Why weren't we that way? Because there is evidence to exist that the sun has been coming up over and over and over and over again. And even on the cloudy days when you can't see it, you don't doubt that it's there. Why? Because there's light. There is, even though you can't see it, there's evidence that it exists. Let me tell you this crazy story. It happened Monday. We were at the dinner table eating dinner as a family, and something that sometimes is fun, and sometimes I feel like I have a referee shirt on. And on this dinner, I was kind of in between, but Brody, our 13-year-old teenager, came home and he goes, Mom, Dad, somebody punched me in the arm. Now, you don't say that at our table, not because of what I'll do, although I was thinking things, but because of what his 9-year-old brother might do. Now, his 9-year-old brother loves his older brother, and there is not anything that he would not do for his older brother. If his brother says jump, he says how high. Why? Because he loves his brother, and you don't mess with him. And he said, Brody, I need to know who punched you, like he was going to walk into the middle school schoolyard and do something about that. And Brody said, I'm not telling you. To which my son replied, his younger brother goes, then I don't believe it happened. I couldn't see it, therefore it did not occur. Why am I telling you that story? Is because there are those that we cannot actually see the presence of God. You can't see him in his deity and his being. And they make the argument, if I can't see him, therefore he does not exist. But I believe as a person of faith, check out this definition right here. As a person of faith, let me just show this to you. Faith is a confident conclusion resulting from intellectual evaluation of the evidence. And I want to tell you as a person of faith, as a person of intelligence, that as we look at the cosmos, that as we look at the biology of who we are, I view the evidence and say, regardless if I can see him or not, in his current form, I believe the evidence is overwhelming that he exists. And let me show you what I mean. We are one of 100 billion different galaxies. 100 billion different galaxies. Isn't it amazing that man has been given the ability to discover that science would say there are 100 billion known galaxies? 100 billion. Okay, let me just show you a couple of these different galaxies. I wish I could show you all of them because they're absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, but I only have time for 2. Here's the first one. I look at that and I say, wow, that is absolutely gorgeous. I love the red, I love the whites, that is somewhere out there, beyond the Milky Way galaxy. The Whirlpool galaxy exists. Science says it exists. The Hubble telescope is the one that took a picture of this thing. This isn't some artistic rendering of what could be. This is actually in existence as we speak right now. Science says it's there. There's visual confirmation. We can say, hey, this galaxy exists. Now let me show you another galaxy. The Sombrero Galaxy. What do you do when you're talking astronomy and you're talking on Cinco de Mayo? You show the Sombrero Galaxy. Why would you not do that? We would totally miss an opportunity. It's the Sombrero Galaxy, man. I mean, long before I ever said Happy Cinco de Mayo, this thing is screaming Happy Cinco de Mayo. And I mean, so, okay, that's fun. It's a good joke. It is easy to laugh. But you just look at the beauty. Like, look at the armbands. Look at the stars that are absolutely shining. It's absolutely gorgeous, and there are those who would say that there was a moment in our universe's history where there was absolutely nothing floating around, and then all of a sudden, poof, there something like that was. How could something like that how could something like that just happen? I have a hard time getting my head around that nothing could produce something like that. But of the 100 billion known galaxies, we live in one of them. And the name of our galaxy is the Milky Way galaxy. So let me just show you a quick picture of our Milky Way. And inside the Milky Way galaxy, let me just show you some of the star clusters that exist, okay? Check this out. I think it's the lagoon. I could stare just at that picture. Give me a telescope that could see it, and I could sit there all day, and I would feel like I had not wasted a day. Because look at the beauty of what you're looking at. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? Now, that's not very scientific, other than creation, creator. Look at the artistic expression of this star that exists in our galaxy. That's the lagoon. We should have anyway, never mind. Let's look at the next one. Messier. If you have kids, there's somebody always Messier. Messier 42 Orion Nebula. That in itself, look at the colors just exploding. And oh, by the way, as you look at that and you think, that's beautiful, it's also lethal. I mean, that is a very violent, dangerous storm that's taking place where no life could absolutely exist. And yet, it just screams of beauty. And there are those who would say, hey, I can explain that. There was nothing, and all of a sudden something happened, and there was something that left something, that left something, that left something, that left something over time. Well, there had to be something that could make something, because nothing can't produce something like that. This is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely breathtaking. Let's go back to the milk. Let's just go back to that last picture. Here's what I believe. As a person of high intelligence and of faith, I look at that, and here's where my mind directly goes. It directly goes to Psalm 19, 1 through 6, where it says, the heavens declare the glory of God. I look at that, and yes, can I see God? No. But can I see something that is beautiful and beyond my comprehension, that is bigger and grander? Yes. And when I look at that, that points to me that there had to be somebody who made that. That it is by intelligent design. It is way too beautiful. Its existence screams that somebody has got to be responsible for that deal. All right, so let's go back to our picture of the Milky Way for a minute. Just quick show you our galaxy again. Okay, so our Milky Way galaxy is 105 million light years long. So, or in diameter, meaning from here to here, it would take you 105 million light years to get there. Light moves at 186,000 miles per second. If you do the math on that, that is roughly 760 million miles per hour. How'd you like to ride that rocket? You want to talk about buckle up, Buttercup. I mean, that is moving, you guys. And so at 760 million miles per hour, you could go around the Earth 7.5 times in 1 second. And yet, when you look at the Milky Way galaxy, which, by the way, contains, science talking, it contains 100 billion known planets. Just our galaxy right here contains 100 billion known planets. Now, you look at this and you say, like, this is big. This must be really big. It's not. If you compare our Milky Way to all the other galaxies, we're actually really small. And even though we're small, we are not insignificant, because out of the 100 billion known galaxies, out of the 100 billion known scientifically proven planets, we are the only planet that contains life like ours. They can see, they've discovered, they've explored, and the only place that they can find life is inside the Milky Way galaxy in a solar system where we exist on our planet. And so let me just show you some fun things before I do that. Here's our little neck of the woods. You'll see that our galaxy is in a spiral form. Why is that important? Because this dude right here is a big-time bad boy. The center of our galaxy is cranking out such radiation that if these spiral arms did not exist, and if that we didn't exist over here in this neck of the woods, in this part of the solar system, the radiation emanating from this deal would render life impossible. The radiation would just make it where life couldn't exist. But because of these bands are absorbing that radiation. Because of where we're tucked in right here, life has the possibility to exist. But just because physical properties exist that are conducive for life, those same physical properties conducive for life are not responsible for life. They're just properties that make life exist, that make life existable. So the fact that we're here, it's a physical property that says, yes, life can exist here because we are being protected from the radiation coming from here. But check this out. Now let's just kind of zoom in and look at our neck of the woods. We've got the sun is that big star, that big orange thing on the left-hand side of your screen. Count 3 planets in, and there you have Earth. If the sun was any bigger and or closer, we would all burn to death. That is a scientific proven fact. If we were any closer, if it was any bigger, we would burn up. If it was any further away or any smaller, we would all freeze to death. So imagine trying to get your mind around the fact that there was nothing, and all of a sudden there was something, and all of a sudden there was something with physical properties that were conducive to life, that all of a sudden life just started happening. Physical properties don't care about life. They could care less about life. They're just necessary for life to take place. Could it be that as we look at the science of our astronomy, it points to intelligent design? I think it does, just on the sheer fact of where we exist in our galaxy, in our proximity to the sun. But we're just getting started. Listen, check out Jupiter right here. Some of you guys who are my age, in your 40s, you remember on the playground, what did girls tell us about Jupiter? Boys go to Jupiter to get more stupider. You remember that one? Yeah. Okay, so Jupiter, man, I love this planet, and you should too. Not just because it's awesome and not just because it's beautiful looking. I mean, listen, there was one who had to think this thing out, not just in its design and the beauty and the splendor of the planet, but in its purpose. What? Jupiter has a purpose? Absolutely. Jupiter, let me tell you why you love Jupiter. It is the cosmic vacuum cleaner. Now, we have this expression when it rains. We say when it rains really hard, it is raining cats and forget cats and dogs. If Jupiter was not here, if it wasn't where it existed, it would be raining asteroids. The purpose of Jupiter in our solar system is to absorb all of the asteroids and the space matter so that it doesn't collide into Earth, so that it's not raining down on our head. That is a really big deal. Like, are we to say, like, listen, the physical laws and properties say, okay, hey, that's a good thing that Jupiter exists because it's taking the asteroids. But did that just happen? Out of the 100 billion known galaxies, out of the 100 billion known planets, about where we are from the sun and in our solar system, there is a Jupiter that is absorbing the asteroids so that Earth, where life takes place, doesn't have to. Isn't it beyond reason that this looks like it's there on purpose? It could be on purpose because life is on purpose and there's somebody who put it there. So Jupiter, man, absolutely fascinating. If we can just kind of go back to, our picture. Cool, awesome. So then we have this little thing known as gravity. Gravity is important. We don't really think about gravity very much, but it's really important. You guys, if gravity did not exist in the direct proportion that it exists, if it didn't exist in the manner in which it existed, we would just have one giant cosmic collision. We would just be banging into one another. We'd be bouncing off one another. But because gravity exists in our area of the solar system to the degree in which it exists, everything here plays nice and serves its function. You guys, if gravity was any less intense than what it is that we're experiencing right now, our planet would physically, Earth, would not be able to retain water. It just wouldn't be able to hold on to it. It'd be gone. It'd be floating. Like, it wouldn't be able to hold on to it. Listen, if gravity did not exist in the manner in which it existed, our planet would be so full of methane gas, our lungs would not be able to handle it, and life would not be able to exist. So are we to assume that there was absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden you get like this cluster and that cluster, and it formed a galaxy, and all of a sudden out of 100 billion known galaxies, 100 billion known planets in our galaxy, we form right here and the physical properties exist? Or is it more reasonable to believe, wow, even gravity is pointing to, the physical properties are pointing to, wow, it looks like there's a purpose for this so that we can actually be here. It points to intelligent design, just gravity. Did you know that right now, you might feel like it's a slow start to the morning? There's nothing slow about what's going on. We are spinning in our orbit right now at 1,000 miles an hour. That's moving. That is absolutely getting it, and yet you're sitting in your seat. If our gravity didn't exist the way that it was supposed to, we'd go flying out of our seats, we'd go flying off the planet, but yet our gravity is holding on to us and putting us right where we need to be. It is more reasonable than not to believe that this looks intelligent, like it's supposed to be happening And it's doing this, but I'm not even done. Let's look at our earth again. Just above our atmosphere, just above the atmosphere of Earth, is this little thing that we love. It's called the ozone layer. If the ozone layer did not exist, neither would we. Now, I know that your sunglasses are telling you that it is protecting you from the UV lights, but long before that UV light ever reaches you, there is an ozone layer protecting you from the radiation of the sun, that if the ozone layer did not exist, neither would we. And all of a sudden, that just kind of happened? Or did somebody put it there on purpose so that life could exist? That's what I believe. I believe in the account of creation. I believe in Genesis 1, in the beginning. Let's check it out together. In the beginning, God created the heavens, and he created the earth. Wow, check this out. The earth was absolutely formless. There was nothing. But in the beginning means there had to be somebody standing outside of the beginning. It had to be standing outside of time that made time come into place. And time came into place when he spoke the beginning into existence. When he spoke the sun, the moon, the stars, the heaven into existence. And the earth was formless, it was empty, it was dark over the surface of the deep. The Spirit of God was there. Before the beginning, there was one who was more powerful, more glorious, more smart, more intelligent, who was already living, who was life, and he begins to speak life into existence. The only planet out of all known science that exists is ours. And he speaks it. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Check this out. And then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. You guys, I don't know if you took time to notice or not, but God is still in the business of doing miracles. And you are in the business of experiencing one right now. Because long before you woke up, or maybe when you woke up this morning, the sun started running its course all over again, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The earth is still tilted at a 23.5 degrees as it orbits the sun this morning. And it's moving, but it's not moving away from. How's that happen? Look at what the psalmist says in verse Psalm 104:5. This is why I believe it all plays well together, is that God set the earth on its foundation, and it can never be moved. I believe God again this morning has commanded that sun to run its race. I believe, again, he commands life to be in existence, and for everything from the galaxy to the ozone layer to our proximity to Jupiter and the planets and the gravity and all that good stuff. It's because God has set it in motion, and his word will not be moved here. And I believe that's why life exists. Look at what one of the scientists says. Michio Kaku says this. As we look at everything, he sums it up with everything that we looked at. It is shocking to find how many familiar constants in the universe lie within a very narrow band that makes life possible. If a single one of these accidents were altered, the stars would never form, the universe would fly apart, DNA would not exist, life as we know it would be impossible on Earth because the Earth would flip over, freeze, and so on, if just one of these things were out of order. Just one. If it's not all together, it's not all together. But yet there's one who is made it so. And here, you guys, as awesome as this is, I look, I see the heavens declare the glory of God, and I look at creation as a miracle. It gets even better than that. Is you. You. When I look up at the heavens, I'm like the author of Psalm chapter 8, and look at what he said. He goes, when I consider the heavens, the works of your fingers, when I look at the moon and when I look at the stars, when I look at everything you've set in place, I just absolutely marvel. And after I marvel, I ask another question. Who am I that you would be mindful of me? Human beings, that you would care for them. As beautiful as all of creation is, I believe that we are made in the image of God. Not our physical bodies, per se, but our souls, who we are as people. Our souls are designed with eternity in mind, as an eternal God exists and made them for that very purpose. You see, when I look at science, when I look at the heavens, when I look at all of creation, I think God wants us to see it. I think God wants us to explore it. I think God loves science, because when we look at science, we cannot help but bump into Him over and over and over and over and over again. And whether you believe in the Bible or whether you don't believe in the Bible tells of how God wants to be known. See, God isn't some impersonal God. He is a God who made us, and He wants us to know Him. We've been designed for relationship. But that is just part of the marvel of our design of being made in the image of God, being designed and made for life and for relationship. Inside you, coursing through your veins right now, is another miracle that takes place. It's called DNA. And there are some who would say, okay, DNA, it just kind of happened. It's way too intelligent for that. Check out this short video.
Flick through the pages of the book I just put on your lap. Look at the color pictures, and I'll ask you a question. Do you believe that book could happen by accident, that nothing produced the color pictures in the book, that red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet ink fell from the sky and formed itself into those beautiful pictures, and then black ink fell from the sky, or from nowhere, and formed itself into coherent words and sentences, capitals and periods and commas, making sense. Page numbers fell from the sky, all in order, and then it bound itself and formed itself into a cover with artwork, and there we have a book. Obviously, intelligent design designed the book. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yeah.
Can you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is DNA?
What is it? Deoxyribonucleic acid, and it's what makes up our bodies and our cells and everything that makes us who we are.
DNA is like our biological code, kind of like binary zeros and ones. Information about us, who we are, what makes us us, parts of us, how we look, how we're built, everything like that.
Your genes instructed your cells how to make your eyes and what color your eyes should be, and your hair and your height and your personality. Scientists call it the instruction book for life.
Basically.
Everything that you are or ever will be made of starts as a tiny book of instructions found in each and every cell. Every time your body wants to make something, it goes back to the instruction book, looks it up, and puts it together. The book of you would have 46 chapters, one for each chromosome. Each of our book's 46 chapters is between 48 and 250 million letters long. That's 3.2 billion letters total.
This is the secret language of DNA. This is the book of life.
Instruction book for life.
Yes.
Instruction book for life.
Yes.
DNA is made up of genes, and genes give instructions to the cells as to how your body should grow. Did you know that those instructions, the instruction book of your DNA, just your DNA, was laid out end for end, would go to the sun and back a number of times? That book of instructions is so comprehensive. DNA is the genetic information encoded in the cell of every living thing that instructs our cells how to grow and how to function. It's our genes that determine whether our skin will be dark or light, have brown or blue eyes, or red or green or yellow, have red hair, be brunette or blonde, be tall or not so tall, or the color of our feathers if we're a bird. Whether we're humans, fish, animals, insects, or plant life, the way our bodies look and operate has all been pre-written in the amazing book of our DNA. What would you think of the person who believed that DNA, the instruction book for life, happened by accident? We're not just talking about human beings, we're talking about every form of life. Fleas, cats, dogs, elephants, cows, horses, trees, plants, everything has DNA, the instruction book for life, which makes the book in your hand just seem feeble compared to the infinite intelligence that must have put the instruction book for life together. Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at DNA and you're like, wow. And it's not because it's so massive that points to God. It's because DNA by itself is intelligence. It's this coding that's got to work together. And listen, we didn't even get into RNA, which is the multiplication process, and you get this thing like ribosome that your body's just naturally doing, where DNA is replicating itself over and over and over again in your body. It is this absolute miraculous work that's taking place. But listen, science says it is intelligent, like it is a complex, intelligent code. That cannot come from something, that cannot come from nothing. It's got to be even more intelligence that put that thing together. And here's the beauty, is I know that people look at that and they'll have their explanations and they won't give God credit for it. That's okay, because God gives us that ability to give credit, like to discredit and say, well, hey, I think I can explain this. What I would tell you is evidence. It is beyond reason to believe that something and someone intelligent put that together. It is unreasonable to me to believe that that just kind of happened. Physical properties and physical laws are only conducive to life. They are not responsible for it. And again, going back to this, you can say, hey, I don't really know about God or giving him credit for something like this. Okay, I get that. But I don't believe people don't believe in God because science doesn't point as evidence that he exists. I believe people can look at the evidence and draw different conclusions because it's just simply easier to believe he's not responsible. Because if I believe he's responsible, then I have to take responsibility for how I live. And I have to take responsibility that there is somebody in more control than what I am, and I have to listen to what that says. And it's just easier to not do that. But as evidence suggests, as science suggests, there's a God who made all of this, and he made us, and he's mindful of us. And here's the good news, is that there are people, probably all of us to some degree or another, who came in here with some baggage this morning. You're carrying a fear, you're carrying a doubt, you're carrying some shame, you're carrying a burden that is absolutely overwhelming and overpressing to you. It is so big, it is looming so large in your life that you wish it wasn't there, and you're like, what do I do with this? Well, there is one who made the heavens. And there is one who made you, who is mindful of you, and he is mindful of you, of what is going on in your life. And this morning, he is asking you to use your intelligence to put your faith in him and to trust him with your stuff. Because if he's big enough to create the stars and to hold the atmosphere and the galaxies and the planets in place, and he's mindful of us, then he is more than loving enough to take care of the things that are going on in our life. And he's asking you to trust him. You just call out to him, believe in him,